Welcome back to Soldier Field. The Bears may have won last week, but the coaches asked the team all week, how did we look when we won? The answer around the building, not good enough, which is why the Bears' mantra this week was, we need more. Bears defensive coordinator Mel Tucker said the biggest difference he sees between a team is week 1 and week 2, and nobody wants to see that difference more than Vikings head coach Leslie Frazier, who said, we don't feel a sense of panic, but we definitely feel a sense of urgency. We do not want to dig ourselves an 0-2 hole. Tom?
Well, thank you so very much. Leslie Frazier led the Vikings to the playoffs in just his second full season as head coach. And on the other side, much has been made when the Bears hired 57-year-old Minneapolis native Mark Trestman as their head coach. Graduated from St. Louis Park High School. In fact, he was inducted into that school's Hall of Fame just this week. His mom and dad accepting that award on his behalf. So congratulations. The Bears have won the toss. They have deferred until the second half, so Minnesota will get the football right from the get-go. Cordero Patterson, the rookie, waiting back in his own end zone, and he will bring it out 5 yards from the end zone. And he's out across the 20 to the 30. Across midfield. Patterson inside the 30, and on the opening kickoff, the rookie Cordero Patterson goes for the touchdown. 105 yards.
When they took Cordero Patterson in the first round of this last year's draft, they envisioned a Percy Harvin presence. Now, he only had the one return last week against Detroit, but what you just saw was the explosive athleticism that had Minnesota take him one of 3 first-round draft choices because the impact he could have into a game just like that.
What a start for Minnesota. Now the point after from Blair Walsh. 13 seconds into this game, and the Minnesota Vikings have jumped in front 7-0. Of course, Patterson taking the place, as you mentioned, of Percy Harvin and all he meant in their return game, as well as the passing game and the running game. And how about this?
Well, it sets up beautifully. The last thing you want to see as a coach is your kicker being the last guy to try to bring down a talented athlete like Cordero Patterson. Really only played 1 year at the University of Tennessee, but this guy, you could see every time he got his hands on the ball, something special happened. And head coach Leslie Frazier told us not only in returns, but offensively, they had to make a concerted effort to get the ball in this guy's hands more. This isn't the last we'll see of Cordero Patterson today.
Well, you talk about getting off to a quick start. We saw Minnesota their first play from scrimmage last week. Adrian Peterson breaking loose for 78 yards and a touchdown. And now on the opening kickoff today, it is Patterson giving Minnesota the 7-0 lead.
And we saw a Detroit Lion team for the rest of the game kind of hem in Adrian Peterson. And right now, Mark Trestman, remember how they got behind early last week against Cincinnati, is going to have to draw on that experience, say, hey guys, we've been here, we're okay here. But by the way, let's not let that happen again.
Of course, Devin Hester is the greatest all-time return man, kick return man in the history of the NFL. 5 kickoff returns for touchdowns in his career, 12 punt returns for touchdowns.
And Mark Trestman told us it was Devin Hester who came to him and said, all I want to do is returns.
Hester, 8 yards into his own end zone. And he's in the open field. You got to be kidding. He's got one man to beat and run out of bounds at the 34-yard line. Oh, my goodness, what a start in Chicago.
Is anybody playing special teams in the National Football League? I know these are 2 gifted guys, but boy, you talk about taking the emotional starch out of you after just returning a kickoff for a touchdown. Nice job setting up, and then the little bit of wiggle and gets to the outside. it turns into a foot race. Nice job on the backside, running this down to save the touchdown by Josh Robinson.
Well, Cutler and the Bears on first down will hand it to Matt Forte. And he's bottled up maybe a gain of a yard. Jay Cutler last week in the victory over Cincinnati, 21 of 33, 242 yards, a couple of touchdowns, and an interception. He led the Bears to that come-from-behind fourth-quarter win.
And that was substantial. His comfort zone in this offense. Head coach Mark Pressman told us, you know what, let's wait 5 or 6 weeks to see really how Jay integrates himself into the offense. But it was an awful good start against Cincinnati.
Forte once more. A big gainer here. Inside the 20 to the 10. And run out of bounds by Josh Robinson at the 8-yard line. That'll be a first down.
Minnesota's not a team that likes to bring the safeties down into the box, but you can see right here as he gets through the hole, the safety, Harrison Smith, was pulled up into the line of scrimmage. That's all well and good to have an 8-man front to stop the run, but if you let a guy like Forte get behind those 8 men, there's not a lot between him and the goal line.
Forte had just 50 rushing yards last week against a stingy Cincinnati defense. Already 24 yards in this one and adding to it. Wrapped up by Robinson, but inside the 5, down to the 4-yard line.
And this is
the Chicago offense, and last week 3 possessions inside the red zone, coming away with 3 touchdowns.
And one of the things about this Chicago Bear offense compared to years in the past, their willingness to stick with the run, particularly in the red zone. And when you have a versatile back like Matt Forte, that gives you a lot of options, particularly down in here inside the 10.
First attempt for Cutler. Forte denied the end zone. Jamarcus Sanford and Chris Cook saying no. And the tackle just inside the 2. It brings up 3rd and goal.
And we're going to see more of this out of Matt Forte. When he came into the league, he had 60-plus receptions his rookie year to go with his dynamic running style. That kind of tailed off the last couple years. Mark Trestman is going to make a concerted effort. He thought Matt Forte ought to have 60 to 70 receptions on the year come the end of the season.
Cutler out of the shotgun inside the 2 on 3rd and goal. Touchdown, Martellus Bennett.
Martellus Bennett, of course, he had a big touchdown reception against Kansas City last week. This is the big, talented receiving tight end that Chicago really hasn't had for the last few seasons, and in the first 2 games, it's already shown up.
One after now by Robbie Gould is good. My, oh my. Not even 3 minutes into this one. A kickoff return for a touchdown by Patterson. And the Bears answer after the big return by Hester.
Today's game on Fox is sponsored by Southwest Airlines. Find our fares online only at southwest.com.
So much for weather conditions. Playing a factor early on in this one.
Yeah, we thought that was going to be a big factor in the game. Well, so far, it's just a factor for the special teams guys that can't get the footing to make the tackle. And these are 2. We'll see Cordero Patterson, only a rookie, but when you look at Devin Hester, we know this is one of the best return guys in the league. And as I mentioned earlier, it was interesting in talking with Mark Pressman. He said that he specifically came to him, talking about Hester now, and said, I just want to return kicks. I don't want to play offense, which was a real reversal from before when he was demanding to play offense.
They kick it away from Patterson this time and through the end zone. The Chicago defense has a new cheerleader getting them ready before the game. We've seen Ray Lewis in the past, and now it's Stephen Paya. How about that, Coach?
I'm not going down there.
Ponder will hand it to Peterson, and he is dropped immediately by Lance Briggs. Briggs in his 11th season, a 7-time Pro Bowler. Number 7, Ponder, had a rough opening weekend in Detroit. 3 interceptions, could have been 4. One was called back that went for a touchdown by DeAndre Levy after the block by Ndamukong Suh, which got him tagged with a $100,000 fine from the league on John Sullivan, who is in the starting lineup at center for Minnesota. Good to see him back. Ponder to throw, rolling to his left, and just throws it away. Well, naturally, you watch the Vikings, and the first name that comes to mind is one of the great running backs in the history of the game, Adrian Peterson. Matt Khalil felt like he had an off week last week.
He did, and the go-to guy for Christian Ponder, tight end Kyle Rudolph, and of course Jerome Simpson had a career best day, or I should say the best day as a Minnesota Vikings, with 7 receptions for 140 yards last week.
So an early 3rd down test. Pump fake, a lob, and it's a catch by Greg Jennings. It is for a 1st down. Nice throw, nice catch by the former Packer.
Well, he pumps the little quick slant fake and then gets in behind Tim Jennings. That is a tough, tight throw. And I tell you what, we see more of it in the NFL because with the new rules about hitting defenseless receivers, typically in the old days, that thing might have gotten blown up. But now you've got to be very careful about how you hit that defenseless receiver.
Jennings only had 3 receptions for 33 yards. His debut as a Viking last week. And now Peterson spun down up to the 39-yard lines by the middle linebacker, DJ Williams. Forcing turnovers, taking the football away. That's the MO for the Chicago Bears.
It begins with the pressure from Julius Peppers, who had an off week last week. Lance Briggs, 7-time Pro Bowler, and Charles Tillman and Tim Jennings. These are the turnover kings for the Chicago Bears.
Made a 4 on 1st down, 2nd and 6. Looking for Jennings once more in traffic. Step for step. Tim Jennings right there with him. And let's take our first game break. Back to Los Angeles and Kurt Menefee. Hi, Kurt.
Hello, Tom. How about Steven Jackson saying hello to the end zone? 8-yard score, his first touchdown as a Falcon against his former Ram team. Atlanta up 7-0 in the first quarter. Back to Tom, Brian, and Laura.
Atlanta in their home opener, trying to get their first win after losing on the road in New Orleans last week. Another 3rd down. Vikings converted on 3rd and 13 a moment ago. Bears showing blitz, and here they come after Ponder. Great protection, and Kyle Rudolph fell down in midfield. That's just bad luck, and that's the first time today where a very wet field was a factor.
And that was a wide open Kyle Rudolph. And you're exactly right, Tom. Last week against the Detroit Lions, the Minnesota Vikings were horrendous on 3rd down.
Well, they tried to get the snap off quickly.
Charles Tillman was limping off the field, and the officials wanted to make sure that the injured man could get off the field.
And you wonder if Tillman's not still being bothered by the knee, which prevented him from practicing this entire week. Now, you're talking about one of the great cornerbacks in the NFL. Been in the Pro Bowl each of the last 2 years. Tillman and Briggs, the 2 longest tenured players on this Chicago team. They go back to the Dick Duran era.
And like I said, takeaways are in the DNA of this team, and in no small part due to a player like Charles Tillman who has been through the multiple coordinators, multiple systems, and yet they still have this aggressive takeaway mentality.
Jeff Locke, the rookie punter out of UCLA, angles to the sideline. Devin Hester will let it bounce, takes a Minnesota bounce. Still rolling inside the 10 and down at the 7. We are rolling early on in the Windy City. The Vikings and the Bears tied at 7.
Today's game is sponsored by Bud Light, official beer sponsor of the NFL.
Chicago with the football inside the 10-yard line. A 7-7 score. We'd like to apologize for some technical difficulties we've had early on here today. From Soldier Field, we have a lot of folks working very hard to get them straightened out. A little delay to Forte. Slips one tackle from Smith and is able to cross the 10 and get up to the 12-yard line. Now, we know Charles Tillman for taking the football away from the opposition. Laura, we did not know he takes away sideline reporters from getting run over.
Well, it gets dangerous on that sideline, Tom.
Laura Oakland is just now getting rid of that feeling you have when you nearly run into somebody in a car and you slam on those brakes in the last second. So they're just saving her from getting hit. Back to the big tight end, Martellus Bennett. And he has a first down up to the 18-yard line. Laura, you okay down there?
I'm fine, because not only is he a great player, how chivalrous is Charles Tillman? That's what he's worrying about, is saving the sideline reporter while his knee's getting checked out, which it is his right knee. That's what trainers were looking at. The good news is not a lot of touching, more talking about it. He's been running on the sidelines. You can see he's back sitting on the bench, and right now it looks pretty good, but it was the right knee, the one thing the Bears do not want to have anything happen to him.
Well, thank you. Cutler on first down and hit from behind as he threw, able to complete it. Out of the backfield of Forte and up to the 24-yard line. Allen right on his heels.
All right, here's Jared Allen coming off the edge. This is the type of thing that obviously the Vikings are looking for. I mentioned earlier that if the Vikings can get pressure on Jay Cutler with their four-man front, they're going to be good. But if they have to bring the safeties and the linebackers down and include them in the pressure, the Vikings want to stay in a high two-deep zone. But if they have to stop the run with the eighth guy in the box or bring pressure, that's going to create some of the one-on-one matchups that Jay Cutler is going to look for on the outside.
Forte, a very busy man, tried to cut it back, lost his footing, and maybe got back to the line of scrimmage. So a third down coming up for Chicago.
You know, we appreciate Laura being life and limb down there. The only thing I have to worry about in this booth is when you shoot me one of those looks when I make a mistake, like I did saying that Martellus Bennett had a touchdown against Kansas City when it was Cincinnati. I think she's got the safer bet than me.
I would never do such a thing.
No, those eyes shoot over at me, man. They
Lord
could go
knows,
right through you.
I've been kicking them all around myself. So here we go on third down and 5. They need to get up to the 28-yard line.
You always want to know where Brandon Marshall is on third down for the Bears.
Cutler with running room, and he will pick up the first down. Of course, with all the times he has been chased since coming to the Bears, and he has been sacked with such unbelievable frequency, Cutler has always been a pretty good running quarterback.
He is. He's nimble in the pocket. He's got better speed than you think. Now, he doesn't have RG3 or Michael Vick type speed, but he can get himself out of trouble and get those coveted third downs. He had to do a lot more of it early in his career with this revamped offensive line with Jamon Bushrod, the two young rookies that are playing well. He hopes to do less of that.
They got 4 new starters along that offensive line, and Brian mentioned the 2 rookies, Long and Mills at right guard and right tackle. Under pressure again, and again having to eat it. He got eaten up by Chad Greenway. Been to the Pro Bowl each of the last 2 seasons himself as a linebacker.
Well, as I said, they love to get pressure with their four-man front. Greenway is one of those guys that can be an excellent rush man when called upon, but also is excellent in his own drop. Not necessarily one-on-one man-for-man is his forte, but dropping into zone and reading a quarterback is right down his alley.
Now, of course, no sacks against the Bengals. You're talking about one of the great defensive fronts, if not the best in the NFL.
And Geno Atkins on the inside against those 2 rookies, that was quite an accomplishment.
Michael Bush, his first carry. And it brings up third down and long for Chicago. We take a look at the Bears offensively.
We talked about Jamon Bristrod coming in, the Pro Bowler from New Orleans. Matt Forte, we've already seen his versatility. Brandon Marshall was third in the league in receiving yards last year. And Martellus Bennett, we've already talked about the impact he had in the come-from-behind win against Cincinnati. Get it right this time. And we've already seen his impact on the game. Don't be looking for that.
Third down and 10. And again, under heavy pressure, flag down. Throw and dropped by Alshon Jeffrey, and another flag comes in. So we have one in the backfield and one at about midfield.
Wow, we're going to see two penalties here. Clearly it was holding when a quarterback has to flush the way he did. Typically that's tough on a lineman. I think we're going to see a penalty on Harrison Smith coming in and targeting the receiver.
There were two fouls by the offense on the play. Holding, number 74, that's declined. There was also illegal touch. The player went out of bounds and was the first to touch after he came back in bounds. Number 17, that penalty is also declined. Brings up fourth down.
So it wasn't hit by Harrison Smith. He started out of bounds, came back into the field of play. Kind of a double whammy there. Either way, the Bears are going to have to punt the ball. You can see right here, he's just out of bounds. He wasn't forced out of bounds. Now he comes back in. He's first touching. That's what brought the penalty.
Marcus Sherrills for the Vikings stands back at his own 20, awaiting on the punt from Adam Podlash. Fair catch right at the 20-yard mark. 5:13 to play in the opening quarter. We're tied at 7.
Today's game is sponsored by Lowe's. Lowe's, never stop improving. By Lexus, introducing a car designed with one purpose, to stand apart. The all-new 2014 Lexus IS. And by Microsoft Surface. Click in and do more.
Welcome back to Soldier Field in Chicago. Great to have you with us. Week 2 of the National Football League 2013 season. And Coach, we're back-to-back weekends inside the NFC North.
And we talked about before, this may be top to bottom, in my opinion, the best division in football, because really you can't pigeonhole any one team. We're talking about a 10-6 Viking team last year, a 10-6 Chicago Bear team, a Detroit Lion team who 2 years ago was in the playoffs, and of course you have the Green Bay Packers. So I don't know how you handicap this division, because right now it's wide open in my book.
Detroit very impressive last week. And they will be playing later today in Arizona. Peterson still on his feet. Lunges forward. That'll be a gain of close to 4 for Adrian Peterson. And a devastating knee injury in 2011. Returned in spectacular fashion last year, coming up 8 yards short of breaking Eric Dickerson's single-season rushing record. And you see in his career 109 yards per game average against the Bears. Brings up third down tonight on Fox Sports Live. Join Jay Onright and Dan O'Toole. They'll recap all today's action from the gridiron and all over the sports world. It's Fox Sports Live tonight, 11 Eastern on Fox Sports 1. And to find Fox Sports 1 on your provider, go to foxsports1.com right now.
Greg Jennings right here in the bunch. This third down situation is exactly what Greg Jennings was brought in here to do.
Ponder delivered a hit, took a hit from Briggs. And the Vikings go 3 and out.
Well, if I'm the Minnesota Vikings, I'm thinking heavily about directionally punting away from Devin Hester.
Lock unloads here. Penalty flag down. His first punt went 58 yards. Hester from the 25 and just nowhere to go. But we wait on a penalty. Hockley, our referee today.
That flag came early. There had to be some type of quick hold or an alignment problem for the flag to come out that quick.
"12 men in the field by the offense. Correction, I'm sorry, by the receiving team on the kick. That's a 5-yard penalty. It's enforced from the previous spot. Results in a first down."
And that's why the flag came out so quickly, so clearly they could see there were 12 guys on the field.
So how about that? Chicago thought they had the football, but the penalty against the Bears gives Minnesota the ball right back, an automatic first down.
Well, there's a bunch of them because they, excuse me, I got the wrong one here. But they've got all sorts of guys here. I'm going to run out of numbers. I don't think this thing goes up that high. They just, and in the transition, you can see the guys coming off obviously didn't get off quick enough. That is brutal to get a team 3 and out and now have to go back on the field defensively because of an alignment or a substitution problem.
Peterson on first down up across the 35 to the 36. Of course, the Bears were the one that took advantage of that sort of sloppiness against a Bengal team last week that, for all intents and purposes, walked out of here feeling like they gave one away.
And in our game, these same Minnesota Vikings should have taken advantage of all the miscues of the Detroit Lions with multiple penalties and fouls that could have put them at risk and could have gotten them a road win in Detroit.
Peterson 5 carries 10 yards to begin the afternoon. They're going to throw it on second down. Or try to throw it. Corey Wooten there to wrap him up. Third down upcoming. Right now a game break. And once more we send it to Kurt Menefee in L.A.
Well, your game tied at 7. So are Houston and Tennessee after Jake Locker hooked up with Kendall Wright on a 6-yard score. That evened the count in the first quarter. So I'm Brian and Laura.
All right, Kurt, thank you. Minnesota 1 of 3 on third down so far. That was on the completion of Jennings. And down goes Ponder. Leveled by Lance Briggs. Boy, they are bringing the heat, and Minnesota having a hard time slowing them down.
Well, neither of these teams like to bring linebackers that much, but that was just a late delayed shot by Lance Briggs coming at just the right time. I expect to see more of this against the Minnesota Vikings. Christian Ponder in this receiving corps.
The ball went backwards. It was the contact of the defender that changed the route of the ball. By rule, that makes it a forward pass, incomplete. It's fourth down.
But as I was saying earlier, the fact that the pressure on Christian Ponder we expect to see more of until they show that they can defeat the one-on-one coverage of the Chicago Bears with the receiving corps that they have.
We mentioned 12 punt returns for touchdowns in the career of Devin Hester, but it's been a while. His last one came in 2011. Let this one bounce, and once more, not a wise decision by the veteran Hester. 2 of those have bounced and taken Minnesota bounces. 51-yard punt. The Bears on offense in a 7-7 game when we return. Opening kickoff return for a touchdown by Cordero Patterson. Devin Hester, a big return on the ensuing kickoff, helping Chicago eventually to score a touchdown on the pass to Martellus Bennett. Wyatt sends in. Bennett with a first down catch up to the 28-yard line.
We've already seen in this game how the presence of the tight end in Martellus Bennett, what a difference it's made for Jay Cutler. Last year, Brandon Marshall was almost exclusively the only guy that Jay Cutler could go to. But the ascension of Alshon Jeffrey at wide receiver, picking up Martellus Bennett in the offseason, and of course the offensive line we've already talked about. This Bear team is significantly different than it was in years past.
14-yard gain on a completion to Bennett, who they feel is their best receiving tight end since they had Greg Olsen here back in 2010. And they hand it to Jeffrey. on the end around. And he's into the open field with Sanford to beat. And he runs him out of bounds at the 34-yard line.
You're just going to see this reverse coming over the top by Jeffrey, and we're seeing now the speed to go with the size of Alshon Jeffrey. With he and Marshall and Bennett, we're talking about guys that are 6'4", 6'5", 6'6". Look at this pull away here. Sanford barely catches up with him and able to push him out of bounds.
38-yard run for Jeffrey. Cutler to throw on first down from the 35. Looking for Marshall. Touchdown.
Like we said, you always have to find Brandon Marshall. Where is he in the alignment? He's right here in the slot. And you can see Jeffrey pulls up. Marshall fights through the hold on the outside. Beautiful air, beautiful timing by Jay Cutler for the touchdown.
Marshall, his first season as a Bear, set franchise records, 118 receptions for 1,500+ yards. That drive lasting all of 3 plays. Capped off by the 34-yard touchdown by Brandon Marshall, and the Bears lead for the first time today. 3 plays, 86 yards. Cutler finding Bennett to start it. Had the long run by Jeffrey and capped it off with a touchdown toss to Marshall. A little more than a minute to play here in the opening quarter. And Patterson building this one once more deep in his own end zone. He's already returned 105 yards. And not much room here, and a flag comes in late.
Holding by the receiving team, number 51. Half the distance to the goal. Minnesota keeps the ball, first down.
Tom, let's go back to that touchdown. And I want to show you here, Jamarcus Sanford right here. This is not what the Minnesota Vikings want to do. We talked about how they're going to have to adjust their 2-deep zone defense. Here they got a single high, and this is not what you want to do against Marshall. Jay Cutler comes to the line, and anytime he sees that single high defense, he's going to look for that one-on-one matchup. Last week in Detroit, they stayed almost exclusively in 2 deep and cut out Calvin Johnson. They have to come into this single high defense a whole lot. We're going to see a whole lot of Brandon Marshall down the field.
Backed up inside their own 5, and Peterson spinning away from 1 tackle. And picks up maybe a yard, maybe 2, depending on the spot.
Chicago's doing a nice job on Peterson. We saw it last week, Tom, after Peterson cranked off 78 yards for a touchdown on the opening run. Detroit did a good job of getting Adrian Peterson for no gain, -2, -3. You don't see that a lot with Adrian Peterson, and so far the Bears have done a good job.
Fake the handoff. High throw, but a catch made by Jennings, and that'll be a first down up to the 19-yard line. Jennings, 7 great years in Green Bay. 3 1,000-yard receiving seasons, 2 Pro Bowls, won a Super Bowl there. Boy, in recent years, the Packers have owned Cutler and the Bears. That'll be the final play of the opening quarter. Chicago in front, 14-7. Quite a turnaround, the first half numbers for the Bears from last week. You may remember Cincinnati in the first half had 245 yards of offense against Chicago. Their defense putting the clamps on Minnesota early today. Julius Peppers standing on the sideline. He missed a lot of playing time and a lot of practice time this week, suffering from the flu. Wide open across the middle is Jarius Wright. And that's a first down up to the 38-yard line. And right now, let's send it to Kurt Menefee back in Los Angeles for a game break.
Falcons with their home opener against the Rams. Matt Ryan hooks up with Julio Jones, who breaks a tackle and then takes it for a career-long 81-yard score. Falcons starting the second quarter up 14-0. Tom and Brian.
All right, Kurt, we have an injured Chicago Bear. Their strong safety, Major Wright, was in coverage and made the tackle on Jarius Wright. No relation. And right up to his feet, but a little bit wobbly, making his way back to the Chicago sideline.
Yeah, you can tell by the look in his eye, he's going to go through the concussion protocol the league has in place right now, because obviously he's a little shook up.
See number 20 coming into your screen, Craig Stelz. Played in 61 games since coming into the league as a 4th-round pick in 2008 out of LSU.
Christian Ponder knows he's got to get something going here, particularly on third down. They're 1 for 4 on third down. Last week they were 2 of 10. They really couldn't get anything sustained. This is pretty good field position for them. He's going to have to convert on a couple third downs if they want to pull this thing even with the Bears.
Peterson, 6 rushing attempts for a total of 9 yards so far in this one. And look, we talked about what happened last week, Brian. He had that 78-yard touchdown run, the first touch of the season. His next 17 carries, 15 yards. They need to get him going. Wanted to throw it. Well, he's lucky that wasn't intercepted. Had an eye on Zach Line.
Christian Ponder's starting off with a tough day, much like the one he had against Detroit. He hasn't turned the ball over yet, but you can see the pressure coming from the side, moving, running him down from the backside. Now it comes from the inside with Briggs. He can barely get the ball off. Christian Ponder, who is a bit mechanical in the pocket to begin with, needs a much cleaner pocket to be effective.
Patterson. And read beautifully by Isaiah Fry. Fry replacing the injured Kelvin Hayden, who went down with a torn hamstring during training camp. A big blow to the Bears. They liked having Hayden as that nickel corner.
And this is the kind of third down they got to stay away from. Last week against the Lions, they were 0 for 5 in third downs longer than 7 yards.
1 for 4 overall on third down today. And that appeared to be Khalil.
Start offense, number 75, 5-yard penalty. It's third down.
Send it downstairs to Laura Oakman.
Tom, we just watched Major Wright walk off the field shaken up. He has walked into the locker room. The Bears are evaluating him for a concussion.
Major Wright and Conti, they have started the last 23 games together as the starting safeties after all the shuffling Lovie Smith did at those two positions. 3rd and 15. Ponder, the underhand feed to Rudolph incomplete. Or rather to Gerhardt incomplete. And Minnesota has to punt.
Good pressure, good stunt by the Chicago Bears, getting pressure. We talked about Ponder being uncomfortable in the pocket, getting guys right in the middle of your face. That is the stem why they struggle on third down.
Eric Weems, the lone Bear, standing back to receive this punt, and they're trying to save it at the goal line. What an effort down there. And then it's touched by a Bear, and it's a live ball. And apparently it got back to the back of the end zone and goes as a touchback. It was batted back initially by Marcus Sherrills. And what happened after that?
Well, that's actually a smart move. Once you get in position like that, to get it out of the back of the end zone, a bit risky. They're talking it through right now, the officials are, to make sure the sequencing of what happened is correct.
The result of the play is a touchback by rule. The ball was first touched by the kicking team, batted back into the field of play legally, and then it was attempted to be recovered, went out of the back of the end zone. As soon as it went out of the end zone, it was a touchback because it was the kick that put it into the end zone. Touchback.
Eric Weems tried to run through the pack inside the 5 and pick that ball up.
You can see it's beautifully kicked back into the field of play. And now once it's been touched and back, he's trying to get this thing back into. There was never any possession at that point. So it's minimal risk.
23 to play until halftime. Chicago fell behind on the opening kickoff 7-0. But now 2 of their last 3 possessions, resulting in touchdowns. And a 7-point Bears lead. Fortunate to have the football. First down from their own 20-yard line after the near disaster on the punt a moment ago. Forte a gain of 5, and Kurt Finneman apiece standing by in Los Angeles once more for a game break.
How about Aaron Rodgers? 200 yards and 2 touchdowns, and it's still early in the second quarter. That one to Jordy Nelson, 14 yards, put him up 17-0 over the Skins. Tom, Brian, and Laura.
I don't know if I'm the Washington Redskins with a rusty RG3 that desperately need to get on the board. I don't know that I'd want to go to Lambeau Field against a Packer team that is equally 0-1. They look pretty good.
I was curious your thoughts, Brian, after this play about the start of Philadelphia. And how impressive they were, especially in the first half against those Redskins last week. Forte for a first down. That'll be up to the 35-yard line.
Very impressive, obviously. The question I have, and obviously they had the high tempo offense. They ran better than 70 plays. Michael Vick got knocked down 20-plus times in that game. That's going to be the key. Can he not turn the ball over? Can he stay healthy with the high-paced offense? It's great to have high-paced offense, but if it means your quarterback's going to get knocked down a whole bunch, that's going to be problematic moving down the year.
And Philadelphia trailing early on at home. Their home opener today, 10-3 against San Diego. First down. And Forte may be back to the line of scrimmage, wrapped up by Chris Cook.
Mark Trestman's done an excellent job with this Bears offense. And again, one of the things worth noting, Jay Cutler, who's been through 7 different coordinators in his career, the thing he's loving now is that the play caller is the head coach. It's one-stop shopping. Not that it's bad to have a defensive-minded head coach as the head coach or your coordinators calling the play and the head coach is not. But there's direct line of communication from the top guy, Mark Trestman, to his quarterback, Jay Cutler.
Cutler 7 for his first 8 of his first 9. But that one did not fool Minnesota defensively a little bit. That was Marvin Mitchell in coverage and on the tackle. And, you know, they refer to him as a quarterback whisperer. Barney Kosar, going back to his days in Cleveland. Steve Young, the top-rated passer while Trestman was there. Jake Plummer in Arizona. Rich Gannon won an NFL MVP award while Trestman was in Oakland. And then Anthony Calvillo was in the CFL where Trestman won a pair of Grey Cup championships.
With a 40-year-old quarterback. That's pretty good.
Good bang, good bang. Bang, 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 bang.
3rd and 9. First down catch by Marshall. Boy, he's hot. To start this one is Jay Cutler.
He talked about the size of these receivers I've already mentioned with Alshon Jeffrey, with Brandon Marshall, and with Martellus Bennett. He says, you know what? That gives me a lot of room to miss when I'm throwing to a bunch of 6'4", 6'5", 6'6" guys with a huge span. They can use their body in tight situations like that to get you just enough of a hole to throw the ball into.
52.
Towing out of trouble and lays it off to Marshall. It's a pretty good pickup on first down to the 43-yard line. A gain of, we'll call it 6, 2nd and 4 coming up for the Bears.
We talked about the no sacks last week against Cincinnati, Tom, and when you start 2 rookies on the right side, that's saying a mouthful. They're holding up pretty good today. There's some pressure on Cutler. We've seen them have to flush out of the pocket a couple times. And it really comes down to communication. You can see here Kyle Long really relies on Garza to tell him what to do, and then he turns out and tells Mills what he's supposed to do.
98, 52.
We're going to throw him wide open. Forte out of the backfield. And he is down to the 32. That'll be another first down.
You're going to see Forte just chipping his way out of the backfield. Just get a wide release. Jay Cutler seeing down the field the coverage that he knew the play was dead down the field. That's maybe the biggest difference we might see in Jay Cutler here in this offense. He knew that coverage was not going to give him the throw down the field. The Jay Cutler may have held on to it and forced it down the field, but he knew dropping the ball off to Matt Forte. You can see right here, this is a pretty good day. That really wasn't necessarily a screen, but it was as good as a screen, slipping it out of the backfield.
And of course, all those yards last week chalked up by Reggie Bush coming out of the backfield. Had 91 yards rushing, but 101 receiving yards. Even Joy Bell out of the backfield had 5 catches for 67 yards.
And don't think looking at that film didn't affect the Bears in looking at how they might deploy Matt Forte with the big day that Reggie Bush had against these Vikings.
Forte already ranks among the top 5 in many all-time statistical categories in Bears franchise history. 2nd down and 9. And Cutler runs into his own man. Throws it to Bennett. Out of the end zone. Hopefully Bennett's all right. He got tangled up with a cameraman down there. Hopefully they're both all right. We're going to come out and take a look at Martellus Bennett. And we'll step aside as well.
Looks like Martellus Bennett is okay. Hopefully he just got the wind knocked out of him. I know it wasn't a touchdown, but you got to look at this again. This was spectacular. First, look at the ups that Martellus Bennett gets. And then right there, just the one-handed grab. You ought to give him a point for that. Maybe 2 points for style, right? And we ought to start adding that into this game because that was spectacular.
Well, Bennett will have to go to the sideline before this 3rd down and 9. And Laura Oakman will try and get us some kind of update on what happened there with Martellus Bennett. Came over after a big season, 1 season, with the New York Giants. And again, we're having some technical difficulties here. And we're still trying to work our way through them. Cutler 5 of 6 on the drive. And down he goes, and the football is loose, and Robinson has it. And Robinson inside the 20, the 10, and that is a touchdown for Minnesota. Stripped away by Jared Allen, and Brian Robinson goes 61 yards. Robinson, the man this week who said, I know Leslie Frazier won't like it, but this is a must-win game for our team.
Well, this is just classic Jared Allen coming up with a big sack at just the right time. We talked about the front 4 of the Minnesota Vikings maybe being the strength of this defense, their ability to put on pressure, and no better than the 2 outside guys with Jared Allen and number 96, Brian Robinson. 2 big athletes. These guys get their hands up. It's a tough passing lane. Boy, you talk about change the emotion of a game.
Point after is good. So Allen the strip. Robinson goes the distance. Officially a 61-yard touchdown run. It's been a big return. And now a turnover brought back for a touchdown for Minnesota.
Game on Fox is sponsored by the 2013 Ford F-150 with EcoBoost.
Well, Brian, here you've been dominated pretty much this entire first half. And yet you get the opening kickoff return, 105 yards by Cordarrelle Patterson. Chicago's driving down the field seemingly at will, but a turnover. You bring it back for a touchdown, and you're even on the board.
And you knew it was going to have to play out this way for the Minnesota Vikings with a struggling Christian Ponder at quarterback, that the defense was going to have to come up with some type of big play, or maybe in the return game like we saw. So it's very fitting for the Vikings right now that it's a kickoff return for a touchdown and a defensive touchdown that has them in this game.
First career touchdown by Robinson. And now into the open field, it's Devin Hester streaking down the sideline and slides down inside the 25. Second big return today by Devin Hester.
And you talk about the emotional response to after having given up a sack and a fumble for a touchdown. Again, he starts to the one side, cuts back across the field, and now turns on the Jets. He's going to catch a little grief for getting caught in behind, but that's still a heck of a return. Just the emotional response these Bears needed after the tough sack, fumble, and touchdown against the offense.
So he's had 2 returns, one for 76 and that one for 8. Bush on first down for a yard. Of course, Devin Hester is 1 return, and we use that as an emphasized word, return, shy of tying Deion Sanders for most combined return touchdowns in NFL history. Hester has 5 kickoffs, 12 punts, and 1 missed field goal return for a touchdown in his career. The overwhelming majority of Deion Sanders were interceptions returned for a touchdown. Forte back on the field. And a first down close to the 10-yard line for Matt Forte. And again, we apologize once more for a number of technical problems we are having today here at Soldier Field. It is a 14-14 game. Still playing in a light rain and closing in on 6 minutes and 10 seconds to play until halftime. Forte inside the 5, down to the 3-yard line. Boy, he's a smooth runner, isn't he?
You know, we're not able to show you the replays because of our difficulties, but they're having such, or illustrated I should say, this counter game where you see in this instance Kyle Long pulling and kicking out. The quick inside traps and the counter game is where Chicago is making their money right now.
Second down and 2. The Bears can get a first down inside the 1-yard line. And that appears to be exactly what Forte picked up. It is a first down. First and goal. With 5 minutes and 5 seconds to play until halftime.
And you have so many options here for Jay Cutler. They're bringing in their big package now. A whole bunch of big tight ends to go with Martellus Bennett. Looks like they're going to get a pure goal line alignment with 3 tight ends. And either pound their way in or play fake and throw a quick flat to the fullback or the back of the end zone with the tight end.
And they have Bush in the eye. They fake it to him. Batted in the air. And intercepted by Kevin Williams. Absolutely unbelievable The Bears on this drive running. And Brian first and goal at the 1, and you're throwing the football.
Yeah, and I think the mentality is, you know what, because we ran ourselves down here on goal line defense, you sell out one way or the other. I'm going to stop the run or I'm going to stop the pass. They had to be anticipating that Minnesota was going to sell out to stop the run, hence the play action that I referred to earlier. But throwing across the middle of a goal line defense on any flat throw is problematic at best. Bad things happen when you do that.
But Jay Cutler, that's the first time he's thrown an interception inside the red zone since 2010. 97 red zone passing attempts since his last interception. And now on first down, batted ball. And unable to get it was Jerome Simpson. Second down and 10 for Minnesota. What an unbelievable turn of events. Brian, I have to ask you again. I mean, you talk about selling out on goal line defense from now until the end of time. It's the 1 yard line.
As a play caller, you always love it. Well, if you'd known you were going to throw an interception, wouldn't you have run it? Well, yeah, if I'd have known I was going to throw an interception, I would have run it.
And now Peterson up to the 28. He'll be 2 yards short of a first down. Major Wright got him right back on the field. After leaving earlier, they wanted to check him out, you may remember, for a concussion.
And now this is the classic situation here. You have a third and relatively short. The question is, are you short enough to go ahead and hand it off and run the ball, or are you going to rely on Christian Ponder to throw for the first? They're currently 1 of 5 on third down.
Ponder is going to run it, and he will slide his way, dive his way to a first down up to the 31-yard line.
Christian Ponder has excellent speed outside the pocket. He really does. He ran a 4.6 at the combine. That puts him up in Cam Newton territory. He's not a 4.41 like RG3, but he's got good speed. What he doesn't have is that nimble foot in the pocket, and that's why you see Christian Ponder many times play faking and getting outside the body of the formation on boots and waggles in order to throw.
First down and 3:10. And now 3 minutes remaining until halftime. And it's intercepted. Tim Jennings led the NFL with interceptions last year, and this one for a touchdown.
Well, outside you can see Jerome Simpson. We said he had a big day last week against Detroit. Ponder just kind of staring that thing down again, going to the outside. That's a late outside throw. We talked about the ability of these Bears to generate turnovers. Christian Ponder clearly going to the outside. Tim Jennings seeing the same way that Christian Ponder did. The eyes of Chris, look at here, right from the get-go, right from the snap, Christian Ponder staring down the outside receiver against an interception-happy team like Chicago. That's a dangerous thing to do.
Point after by Gold is good. 2:51 to play until halftime. The interception returned for a touchdown by Jennings gives Chicago a 21-14 lead. After the interception returned for a touchdown by Jennings. And again, we apologize to all of you at home with the many technical difficulties we are having from here at Soldier Field. .251 until halftime, and Patterson's already brought one back for a touchdown, and he breaks this one to the outside and up to the 25.
Well, Jay Cutler's having a heck of a day, except for the one interception. He's making plays outside the pocket, but now the fumble picked up for the touchdown by the Minnesota Vikings. Now he throws the interception flat through the middle of a goal line defense, something you never do as a quarterback.
Cutler is hit on 11 of 14, 107 yards, 2 touchdowns and an interception. Meanwhile, Ponder, as he drops one off to Jennings on first down, and Jennings still battling for extra yardage. We'll see where they spot this. He picks up nearly 10 on first down. Ponder now 5 of 13 for 61 yards. And the big interception a moment ago. They're in hurry-up mode. Minnesota with all 3 timeouts remaining. And 2:30 to play until halftime. A very quiet first half for Adrian Peterson.
And we're going to see what kind of confidence Leslie Frazier and the Minnesota Vikings have in Christian Ponder. Here outside of 2 minutes. You're sitting here with the 2-minute warning. You've got all 3 timeouts. You've got plenty of assets to orchestrate a drive down the field. We'll see what kind of confidence they have in letting Christian Ponder orchestrate that kind of drive, or that they go for the safe route with a lot of runs if they can convert here on the 3rd down to minimize the exposure.
Well, Patterson, the big kickoff return on the opening kickoff. Hester responded with a 76-yard return, setting up another Chicago scoring drive. They went ahead 14-7. The fumble by Cutler, returned by Robinson for a touchdown. As Peterson will pick up the first down on 3rd and a yard up to the 42-yard line. And the clock stops, 2:17 to play. That was the Bears who spent a timeout a moment ago thinking they stopped 3rd and 1. They get the ball back.
And the fact that the clock has stopped outside of 2 minutes and the Vikings still sitting with a bunch of timeouts, they're in great shape here to run their 2-minute offense. I don't know that they need to run no huddle offense if they're not comfortable with it. They have enough tight ends, or excuse me, timeouts, and the clock was still running.
And we have reached the 2-minute warning. Total domination statistically for Chicago, but it's only a 7-point lead. 2 minutes to play until halftime, and the Vikings a first down from their own 42-yard line. Handed off to Peterson, crossing midfield, inside the 40, inside the 30. And he will step out of bounds at the 23-yard line. Adrian Peterson, his first big carry of the day.
Just run a little delayed draw right here to Adrian Peterson. Just a 3-man rush, actually. They're spying the linebackers out of there, and Adrian Peterson gashing down the middle of the field. I think Chicago's got to play a more basic front against this Minnesota Vikings. You know Adrian Peterson can beat you. Let's see if Christian Ponder can beat you throwing the ball. You better play.
36. Peterson, by far his best of the afternoon. And he'll get it again. And a gain of close to 2. Peterson, by the way, has just eclipsed the 9,000 rushing yards mark in his career. The 3rd fastest player to ever do it. And this is 91st game, trailing who did it in 82 games, and the great Jim Brown. A minute 15 to go. Second down at the 20. Ponder looking for Rudolph. And the big tight end for the touchdown. He just ripped that one right away from Major Wright. And Rudolph, the Pro Bowl MVP from last year, with his first touchdown here in 2013.
We talked about Jay Cutler throwing to his big receivers. Well, Christian Ponder has that same ability to go to the big Kyle Rudolph. All 6'6" of him. Beautiful throw and catch by Rudolph.
Rudolph, a great basketball player during his high school days at Cincinnati's Elder High School. Went on collegiately to Notre Dame, and he's one of the best in the business at tight end in the NFL in a short amount of time. Point after is good to tie the game at 21.
Well, this is a beautiful job pulling the ball out of what Major Wright thought he was going to get an interception.
There were 12 men in the field by the defense. That 5-yard penalty will be enforced on the kickoff. The try is good.
Well, that's insult to injury. A touchdown thrown on you when they thought they were playing Trestman rules in Canada and playing with the extra guy, and the Vikings still come up with a touchdown. Great play by Rudolph. We talked about him being a go-to guy to Christian Ponder, and you got to give Christian Ponder credit for putting the ball up. Here he's just thrown an interception for a touchdown, and now he throws up, which easily could have been an interception. Wright thought he had one, and relying and trusting on his tight end Rudolph to bail him out.
Took him 1:40 to go 75 yards on 6 plays. Peterson carrying for 46 yards, and then the 20-yard touchdown catch by Kyle Rudolph to tie the game at 21. And again, we will continue to apologize. I know so many of you look so forward to each and every one of these games, and nobody does it better than the NFL on Fox. All our technical people are, believe me, they're scurrying around down there trying to figure out what it is that's causing some issues for us today in Chicago. We'll do the best we can. That's all you can do.
Line up and play.
Well, what a game it has been. I mean, we have seen a little bit of just about everything in this one for today. So now, Coach Billick, you have an accomplished quarterback who's more than capable of taking you down. Having 2 timeouts remaining.
Absolutely, with the 2 timeouts, you may see a draw the first play, trying to get a big play like we saw Minnesota do with Adrian Peterson. But yeah, I can't imagine that Mark Trestman doesn't trust a Jay Cutler to use that 1:11 with the 2 timeouts. You got plenty of time, at least to get down a field goal range.
And there's a draw. You just said it. But this one snipped out right from the get-go.
And that kills you now. Whoop. And if you run the draw, we got a penalty on top of it. This could change the price of poker.
So stop the clock with 1:01 left.
A foul. Unnecessary roughness by the defense, number 33. Came in with his head and hit a player on the ground. 15 yards, first down.
Well, I was just about to say that draw that gets snuffed out, that kills you if that's how you're going to start the drive. But that's as good as a 15-yard run now. Now I'm in business. I got a little over.
We welcome many of you who lost us. First 3 plays inside the 5, 3 incomplete passes. So now with 2 seconds remaining in a half, Robbie Gould out for a 20-yard field goal try that would give Chicago a 24-21 lead. Oh, he just did sneak it into left upright. So that's the way a very entertaining first half comes to an end. Once more, we apologize for all of our technical difficulties. I promise you, we'll work to get it better. 24-21, Bears get it to begin the second half. What a half of football we've seen here at Soldier Field in Chicago. The Bears with a 24-21 lead. We invite you to follow your favorite team all season long. Just go to iTunes.com/NFL. Well, Brian, that first half, and again, we apologize to all of you for all the technical difficulties we're having. We mentioned before we have a lot of folks working very hard to get them straightened out. What an unbelievable half.
Well, and it's all the big players making big plays. Cordero Patterson and Devin Hester in the return game. Brandon Marshall, you knew you'd see a lot from him with big plays down the field. Jay Cutler throwing the ball down the field. Saw Christian Ponder actually respond to adversity and take it down the field.
It was a 14-7 Chicago lead, and they were dominating every category imaginable. Then this fumble by Cutler. Robinson returns it 61 yards for a touchdown to tie the game. Bears go down the field at the 1-yard line, intercepted. But very next possession, Ponder throws the interception. Tim Jennings a touchdown. Ponder answers with a touchdown strike to Rudolph with 1:11 to play. And then really it was a penalty by Minnesota, which aided the Chicago drive, which eventually led to a field goal to take the lead, the final play of the half.
Yeah, they actually stuffed the draw play to Hester that probably would have killed any real drive with approaching a minute, even though they had 2 timeouts. But the penalty now all of a sudden made it like a 15-yard game, and that's all Christian Ponder needed with 2 timeouts to get a throw to Brandon Marshall down the field, take it down to the 2 or 3 yard line. They had a couple shots to it, couldn't quite get it done, and had to settle for the field goal.
Brian, let me ask you quickly, if you're Mark Trestman, how do you feel about that first half? A lot of good, but a lot of things obviously you hoped would go better.
Well, let's remember they were down by 11 to Cincinnati, so right now they're feeling pretty good based on what happened last year, or last week I should say. You got to focus on the positives and just know that you're better than the negatives.
All right, Devin Hester already a pair of big returns in this one, 76 yards and 80 yards. And this one right at the goal line to begin the second half. And they'll bottle him up this time, running him out of bounds. And a little pushing and shoving going on at the end of that play. Let's check in downstairs with Laura Oakman.
Tom, Leslie Frazier said all week they've been talking about how Christian Ponder has to make good decisions. Second half, he said that is going to be so important against this great defense. We can't make mistakes and give them anything. Offensively, he said we're going to keep feeding the ball to Adrian Peterson no matter how good of a job they've been doing with him. And Mark Trestman said we know that. We know that Adrian's going to keep getting the ball. The key, great run, fits everyone to the ball when he has it. He said it's an unusual game. We have to keep mixing it up.
All right, first down for Cutler. Fakes one way, comes back the other way to the big tight end Martellus Bennett. And that'll be a first down, a gain of 15. Well, Minnesota allowed 21 points in that second half loss week 1 at Detroit. We were there. And Chicago stormed back after trailing at one point 21-10 to Cincinnati to beat the Bengals in the final stanza.
You've got to draw on those experiences on either side of the ball to eliminate the errors that brought about that 21 points if you're Minnesota, and repeat the big comeback or maintain it if you're the Chicago Bears.
Well, it worked the first time. It did not fool Jared Allen this time. That went for a 20-yard run by Jeffrey in the first half. Big loss this time.
That's just the veteran experience on the outside with Jared Allen. They've run this little ghost reverse and handed it off to Forte 3 times. Jared Allen knows the next time this guy motions in behind, they're probably thinking they can get this reverse, and he was going nowhere.
And that is a veteran move, isn't it?
Oh, and that's just sheer veteran knowing what's coming down the pike because of what happened before.
Mike 52.
Loss of 8, second down and 18. And Cutler has to just lay it off. And Forte breaks a couple of tackles. Good gain there. Up to the 39-yard line. Will bring up third down and 6.
Those are the kind of gems you love as a coach. The play is dead. They ended up in a very soft 2 deep. Jay Cutler had no place to go. Nice protection by the offensive line to hold it out long enough for Jay Cutler to just try to make something happen. Typically that late into the play, something bad usually happens. A tip ball, an interception. Instead, they're able to get some good yardage to make it a manageable third down and 5.
Good bang.
Oh, that easily could have gone the other way. He took a big hit by Robinson.
Well, that was clearly a Jay Cutler not on the same page. At the bottom of the screen there is Brandon Marshall. He just went vertical. And Jay Cutler believed he was going to fall off for the comeback. A little bit of a late hit there. Can't tell if Robinson pulled off or not, but not enough to bring about the flag.
Unless the punt, and not a good one. We're going to see where they mark this. Still waiting. The official sprinting up the sideline. Still going. Still going. At the 34, Minnesota gets it for the first time after defensive stop.
Vikings game on Fox is sponsored by Southwest Airlines. Find our fares online only at southwest.com. By Chevrolet. Check out the all-new Chevy Silverado at the Silverado vs. All event. By Miller Lite. It's not just a good time, it's Miller time. And by DirecTV. If you call yourself a sports fan, you've got to get DirecTV.
24-21, Chicago in front. First possession of the second half here for Christian Ponder and the Vikings, and they give it to Peterson. And that'll be a gain of close to 5 on first down. Ponder 6 out of 14 through the touchdown in the final minute. The interception that went for a touchdown. Peterson had a 36-yard run on that final drive of the half, and Jennings matching his reception total from last week in the first half. Play fake to Peterson. Great coverage once more by Jennings. Ponder maybe a fraction late, rolling to his left. That's something, Brian, we talked about a number of times last week. As a right-handed quarterback, rolling to your left, and how it takes a little bit more time to get squared up and hit the receiver.
It does, and Ponder going to the left has not been real successful. I understand that as a changeup, but to take a quarterback, a right-handed quarterback, go to the left that much, particularly with the difficulty, you ask him to make good decisions, don't put him in a tough physical position to make these good decisions.
He'll carry the football and come up short. Now Phil Lodo was saying he slid before he was touched to get a first down.
Now the play fake to the right, obviously, because this is a tendency breaker. I get that. Now going to the left, watch the mechanics of what Ponder has to do. Pretty good, but the ball is just out a little bit late because of him going to the left.
And here is a very interesting decision early on. Leslie Frazier is going for it on fourth down.
Let's see if they're just going to try to draw them off sides here with the fake count.
They're going for it. Ponder rolling. Will run, and very close to a first down. He may have gotten it by about a foot. They were looking for John Carlson, the backup tight end, and Chicago had him bottled up.
Well, they weren't buying the run play at all. You're right. They had the two tight ends bottled up there. You saw a little of the speed we talked about with Christian Ponder. He knew exactly where he needed to go for that first down, and once he got right to the 45-yard line, he was able to move the chains.
Darius Wright in motion, and they give it to Peterson. And the ball is loose. Was stripped out of there in Chicago. Does Chicago have the ball? They're saying Chicago Bears football. That's Corey Wooten who covered it up. Now all the Minnesota offensive players are standing on the field.
Boy, that's a close one. We're going to have to see that one in slow motion to see if that knee touched down just as it was coming out. We're going to have to see that when we come back.
We're going to take a look, and we'll step aside. It is official. It is a fumble. The strip by Nate Collins on Adrian Peterson. So the Bears get the football on the turnover, leading 24-21, 10-15 to play in the third quarter. And the handoff to Forte, stuffed at the line of scrimmage, wrestled down by Jared Allen.
Well, we got to go back, and you're going to see right here, just as the ball hits on the hip of the tight end Carlson right there, you can see the ball's out, and you can see his knee is not down, why that led to the call of it being a fumble.
Cutler out of the shotgun, a loss of a yard on the handoff. Second and 11, they'll give it to Forte again, and again nowhere to go. Maybe a pickup of half a yard. So third down and nearly 11 coming up for the Bears.
We've seen just about everything in this game. Adrian Peterson maybe one of the strongest-handed person. You shake hands with Adrian Peterson, you figure this guy's never going to fumble, and to see a fumble by Adrian Peterson on top of everything else tells you just how strange this game is. Brandon Marshall down here at the bottom of the screen. Always want to know where he is on third down.
Blitz coming. They get it away to Bennett, but surrounded by 3 Viking defenders, and it's 3 and out after the turnover for Chicago. So a good defensive stand there for Minnesota. Hodlish on the punt, and Marcus Sherrill standing back inside his own 10-yard line. End over end punt, and a fair catch at the 8-yard line, and that's where Minnesota will put it in play. 8:17 to play in the third. A good one today inside the NFC North. A 3-point game. 24-21, the Bears in front. Nearly midway through this third quarter from Soldier Field in Chicago. Ponder on first down. Puts it in the hands of the rookie Patterson. And that's a good gain on first down from the 8 all the way out to the 24-yard line. Patterson had just 1 catch, was only on the field for 5 offensive snaps in the season opener.
And again, they've done this a couple times, trying to get the ball out quickly. Almost an extended handoff, really. What we haven't seen yet is him motioning into reverse. We're apt to see a reverse by him at some point. They know the athleticism. We've already seen it with the kickoff return for a touchdown.
Peterson hard running up to the 30. That'll be a gain of close to 6, almost 7 on first down, brought down by Collins. Collins, a man who stripped the ball away from Peterson on the last possession.
And you certainly want the fumble and recovery for Chicago, but on the flip side, I think you've just made Adrian Peterson really mad, and that's a bad thing.
They call it a gain of 6, so second down and 4. And Peterson close, appears about a yard short of a first down. Right now, let's go back to Los Angeles, a game break, and say hello to Joel Klatt. Hi, Joel.
Hey, Tom, after some scary moments in which Malcolm Floyd was carted off the field after a hit to the head, same drive, Phillip Rivers to Eddie Royal into the end zone. 20-10, San Diego up on Philadelphia. Tom, back to you.
All right, Joel, thank you very much. We'll keep an eye on that one. Joel will keep us up to date throughout the rest of the day. Third down and a yard. They give it to Peterson, and that's a first down to the 35.
This offensive line of Minnesota last week, we talked about Adrian Peterson cranking off that 78-yarder for a touchdown. Really had nothing the rest of the game, and the offensive line kind of put it on their shoulders, beginning with Matt Khalil, who has not had a good preseason, did not have a good first game. They're better than that. This group has stayed intact for the entire season last year. They feel like it's on their shoulders to get Adrian Peterson cranked up and not have these -2, -3-yard gains.
Play action. They fake it to Peterson and then throw it to him. And he is spun down up to the 41-yard line. That'll be a gain of 7 on first down. I would like to remind you, every weeknight on Fox Sports 1, join Kurt, Jay, and Mike for Fox Football Daily. Tomorrow they'll be joined by Howie Long to review all today's games and preview the Steelers v. Bengals in the AFC North. Fox Football Daily. Weeknights only on Fox Sports 1. Don't forget they'll also recap college football action over the weekend.
A lot of good football during the week.
And a college game at Soldier Field yesterday. Illinois hosting Washington. There's the first carry of this season for Toby Gerhart, former #1 pick out of Stanford, second-round pick out of Stanford, and he picks up a first down.
And this is part of the 1-2 punch that Minnesota, if they can stay in this rhythm, this is the game they want to play. Pound, pound, play action fake, maybe make a throw down the field. And it's a close enough game. They're on the road. They're down by 3. This is the kind of game they want to play. They can pound away with Gerhart and Adrian Peterson. This is in their wheelhouse.
Play action. And again, right back into the hands of the man that took the initial fake, and that's Gerhardt. So he has his first catch of the year, along with his first carry of the year, and right back in there is Peterson for second down.
And this is where Christian Ponder has to be careful, because anytime he turns his back to the defense for these play fakes, and it's a good thing to do, because when you run the ball that well, that's the best way to draw out the linebackers. But you're looking kind of blind into the secondary. You got to be careful.
Ponder had a wide open Jarius Wright down the field and never looked at it. Third down and 7.
And that goes to what I was talking about. When you come out blind, you don't know what the rotation of the defense is. He had no way of knowing that they had dropped a coverage with Wright in behind it. As quickly as he had to step up, the only thing he could see is to get it out of his hands quickly and drop it off to Peterson.
Ninth play of the drive, third down and 7.
Hey, go Raider, go Raider! Raider, go Raider!
They're showing blitz. They get it off. Good protection and a good throw and a catch by Simpson. That is a first down and carrying Bears with him to the 14-yard line.
Nice job. You can see Simpson sits down in that soft zone in behind the safety Conti. He needed to get a little bit more depth to force a higher throw by Ponder over the top.
Big third down conversion for Minnesota. Talked about Simpson. Had the breakout year with the Bengals 2 years ago. Very disappointing season last year. His first as a Viking, and off to a great start this year. First down, Peterson bounces it to the outside and wrapped up down to the 10-yard line and gain of 4.
This is where the commitment of the Minnesota Vikings to the running game. They get into pure I formation and go downhill more than any team in the National Football League. Simple as a screwdriver, easy to draw up, and that's where the play action fakes will come off to hopefully get someone in behind that second level.
11th play of the drive, 11. And on the 12th play, it's incomplete. Defended beautifully there by James Anderson. His first year as a Bear after coming over as they started the last 7 years in Carolina.
I want you to watch Jennings on the outside here. I think Ponder missed something. He comes open in the back of the end zone. Now the ball went out a little early, but I think he had Jennings. Nice play. But I think he had Jennings in the back of the end zone.
3rd and 6. Wright caught it, had it jarred loose. It bounces into the end zone, and who has the football? Was it a catch? Lots of decisions to be made in a split second here. And apparently Chicago will have the ball, and they're going to get it to the 20-yard line on a catch and a fumble by Jarius Wright.
We're going to see here he juggles it just a little bit to get control. Never really has complete control. I don't know. That might be a challenge to see that he ever had complete control of the ball. It clearly comes out, and it's clearly a recovery. It's going to be under review because any change of possession.
The bat was caught, fumbled for a touchback.
I'm not sure he had control of the ball, Tom.
They're going to take a look at it. This is a big call in this game. We'll have the verdict when we come back. Ed Huckley spent a long time taking a look at this one, Brian.
Well, the longer you go, to me, it looks like he never really has possession there. It starts to move. It's bobbling around the entire time. And you can see here, clearly the ball is still moving. There's no question it comes out. There's no question that his knee wasn't down. and the recovery's clear-cut. It may be taking this long because they may be determining what the ball comes back to, which is kind of a no-brainer. 3rd and 6 comes back to the line of scrimmage.
There comes Ed Hockley making his way out from under the hood.
The receiver never actually had possession of the ball. Therefore, it was an incomplete pass. It's 4th down on the 10-yard line, 6 yards to go, and they reset the clock to 2:34. 2:34 on the clock.
And Mike Pereira back in Los Angeles. You're not surprised by that, right?
Not at all. The old ABC. A, control, but B, with 2 feet on the ground, he did not have control. So therefore, the pass was incomplete all the way. The absolute correct overturn. And by the way, Coach Billick was all over that.
I appreciate that, Michael.
Well, it's nice to hear you two getting along a little better now.
There we are. He bought me that bottle of wine he said he would with all my money. Well, that is a big play. You're exactly right, Tom, because the difference now, they can obviously get this chip-chop field goal in, tie it up for the Bears. What have we not seen in this game?
You're not lying.
I can't think of a single
last
thing.
week we had seen almost everything.
We didn't have the big returns last week. We've seen them. We've seen it all today.
A 28-yard field try by Blair Walsh, a Pro Bowler as a rookie a season ago. And right down the middle. Oh, what a weapon Walsh has turned out to be after coming out of the University of Georgia. We're tied at 21-4.
Adrian Peterson, he's looking at the pictures going, how many guys they putting down in this box? That's a whole lot of folks that Chicago's throwing down in there against him. And here's what he's looking at right here. You can see Adrian Peterson. He's looking at the pictures to decide exactly what kind of fronts they're throwing at him. And they're throwing multiple fronts and multiple people at Adrian Peterson to make this thing very difficult to run the ball and hence the turnover.
24-24, and Walsh puts a foot on it. And Devin Hester, a couple of big returns already today, will get another chance. And here he comes again. Out to the 28-yard line.
And here's what we're talking about, what Adrian Peterson is looking at. You can see right here what the Bears are doing. They're putting 8 people into the box virtually every snap. That makes it awful tough to run the ball. Gives you some opportunities in behind it, and they're going to do the same thing right here. Load up this box. In this instant, turns into the turnover and the fumble by Adrian Peterson. What has to happen is for Christian Ponder to make that play fake and get the ball in behind those 8 defenders for a big play in the passing game.
So now Cutler and the Bears with a football. They're coming after him on first down. Brandon Marshall up to the 32-yard line. That'll be a gain of close to 5 on first down. Been a very quiet second half offensively for Chicago. 4 plays, 20 yards, had a punt. That was after the turnover, you may remember, on the Adrian Peterson fumble. And then 3 plays for a total of 1 yard, as you see the numbers today for Brandon Marshall. Earl Bennett up to the 35. It brings up a 3rd down and 2, and as we're continuing to move forward in this game, final minute and a half of the 3rd quarter. Every 3rd down is going to be magnified. It's something that Minnesota was finally able to do on that just completed lengthy drive that led to a field goal.
And the Bears have fallen off a little bit on 3rd down. This is the money down. This is where your quarterback's got to be able to deliver to keep a drive alive.
50-50.
Both of their last 4 on 3rd down to the Bears. And that changes here as it's Forte run out of bounds by Jamarcus Sanford, and that is a first down up to the 47-yard line.
This is so tough on a defense and so focused on a possible run by a running back. Then you see the play fake. You see him come out of it. And now you try to orient yourself. If you're a linebacker or a safety, where am I? Where do I go? And now all of a sudden, a Matt Forte sneaks out and gets a big third down conversion.
32.
Four-man rush. Forte shot down in the open field by Harrison Smith. It'll be game 3, and we send it back to Los Angeles. A game break once more to Joel Klatt.
Yeah, great ball game you guys have in Chicago. Great ball game in Kansas City. Alex Smith finds Dwayne Bowe for the touchdown. They would take a 1-point lead. They would also tack on a field goal, and Kansas City up 17-13 over Dallas.
All right, Joel, thank you very much. 2nd down and 7.
Could be checking to a run now.
Exactly what they did. And Forte slips a couple of tackles. And that's the way the third quarter will come to an end here at Soldier Field. 15 minutes of football remaining. We are tied 24 apiece. Go, Coach Billick, down to the 4th quarter, and last year, let's not forget, both of these teams won 10 games. It was a tiebreaker record inside the division that allowed Minnesota to go to the playoffs and the Bears to stay home.
And that last game in Minneapolis was a 14-14 tie when Harrison Smith intercepted a pick 6 to get the Vikings the win in Minneapolis. So they're used to being in this situation.
Pump fake, looking for Marshall, and you just said Harrison Smith. And he has just picked off Jay Cutler at the 12-yard line. Second interception thrown by Cutler. And that could turn out to be a huge turnover.
Well, just like last year, I imagine that was the reason Smith got the interception for a touchdown last year. Jay Cutler had to lose vision on Harrison Smith. He thought he had Brandon Marshall all alone on the outside. He had beaten the underneath coverage. But Cutler had lost sight of Smith, and that's what turned into the interception.
So again, once more, we are having some technical difficulties here from Soldier Field in Chicago. And hey, look, we've had them all day. We got a lot of people working very hard to get it better, and that's all I can tell you. Try.
Just listen to us. We'll tell you what's going on.
We do know 14:53 remains in the 4th quarter. And Adrian Peterson on first down picks up close to 3 yards. Peterson now 18 carries, 87 yards. He's had the one big run of 36. Outside of that, Brian, very quiet.
Well, we talked about the difficulty after the big play they had against Detroit. Really did not have much the next 3 quarters. Same thing here. What we haven't seen, unlike in Detroit, is a lot of lost yardage by Adrian Peterson. And very rarely do you get that. He's such a big physical back. But so far, the Chicago Bears have kept him in check, and they do it by keep building this 8-man box. You can see it right there. They got that extra defender down in the front.
2nd down and 7, and Peterson up to the 20-yard line. That'll bring up a 3rd down and 2 with 14 minutes to go from Soldier Field.
We may see a little bit more of Gerhardt here. Adrian Peterson been in carrying the ball a whole lot. Keep him spelled and fresh. If this turns into a long, sustained drive, we're apt to see a little rotation of the backs.
The last drive lasting 13 plays on a 3rd and 2. They're in the shotgun. 13:30 to go. And Ponder finds Jennings left alone. And Greg Jennings all the way up across the 40. A penalty flag comes in late. Undoubtedly, this will go against the Bears, and he'll tack on more than likely 15 more.
Well, they just bunched it up and let Jennings sneak out underneath the 3-man combination.
Personal foul, horse collar tackle, defense number 33. 15-yard penalty from the end of the run. First down.
That's Tillman.
And that with the hand in behind the shoulder pads. Anytime you tackle and you get your hands in between the shoulder pads, underneath the helmet right there, not much of a horse collar. Oh boy, it sure looked like one. I don't know if you were to measure it and be able to see exactly where his fingers were. I don't know if it was a real egregious one, but it got called either way.
First down at the Chicago 44. Ponder flushed out of the pocket, and he is tackled by Briggs, but not before a good gain inside the 40 down to the 37-yard line. So here Ponder, maligned last week for his play, took them on a 13-play drive, and let's be honest about it. Jarius Wright should have caught that ball for a touchdown that was initially called a fumble, reviewed. Minnesota got it back to tie the game with a field goal, and now Ponder, critical juncture of the game, has his team on the move again.
And this is where Leslie Frazier has the faith in Christian Ponder for him to work himself out of the earlier mistakes.
2nd and 5. And Peterson a first down to the 27-yard line. That'll be a first down for the Minnesota Vikings. Clock down to 12 minutes to play.
Watch this spectacular jump cut right there, back outside the hole. We talk about Adrian Peterson being such a great downhill runner, but look at that vertical, or excuse me, that horizontal jump to the side. That is such great athletic ability for a big, powerful runner like Gerhardt, or like Peterson, excuse me.
20 rushes, 102 yards for Adrian Peterson.
And Gerhardt's in the game, as we said, an extended drive, got a good 1-2 punch.
First down. Rudolph, the tight end, to the 18, very close to another first down. He needed to get to the 17-yard line. We'll see where they spot it. He might be a yard short, maybe 2 yards short. It's 2nd down. We'll call it 2.
Offensive coordinator Bill Musgrave is getting into a good rhythm right now in changing up the personnel and the formations. They're not just in the eye. They're never going to get too far away from that downhill running game, but they're changing it up a little bit right now. That's testing the Chicago Bear front 7.
We're down to 11:05 to play at Soldier Field. A 2nd and 2. Ponder rolling, and just throws it away. So a 3rd down and 2 coming up. There you get a look at Bill Musgrave. Of course, Brian Billick, you know what the life is like of an offensive coordinator in Minnesota. You can have record-shattering seasons, and you'll take some heat.
Yeah, and the play call. I always used to love the criticism. Well, you're so predictable. We know exactly what you're going to do. Look, I can run it or I can throw it. You got a 50-50 chance.
3rd down and 2. 11 minutes to go. Ponder to throw. Or will he run it? And he dives forward, took a big shot from Anderson. Did he get a first down? It is a first down on a gutsy carry by Ponder.
And once he gets outside the edge, we talk about his speed, and he is not in a defensive position now. He's going for the first down, so that's a legal hit. He is a legitimate ball carrier here, and again, he's got good speed. When he gets outside the edge, securing the ball very well, knows exactly where the first down is.
Oh, they brought it out for a measurement, and I mean the nose of the football right on the stick. Ed Hockley originally said first down, and then they wanted to make sure.
And Mark Trestman may be thinking about challenging the spot on this. This is the official marker on this side. Now that where it is spotted, boy, that is tough, and it's so tough to challenge a spot because it is so. I mean, that's hard to place it that close, an inch either way. Yeah, he's challenging it. Mark Trestman's deciding.
All right, so a challenge by Mark Trestman, and we're going to take a timeout. We're going to wait on that timeout. I think that Mark Trestman felt like
in the field that it was a first down.
And I guess, Brian, the question is, we're going to take a break, but where they put down that red stripe along the sideline, is that a true measurement of where the first down yardage is? We'll take a look when we come back. Taking a long look at this one, and Mike Pereira, from where you sit back in Los Angeles, and you have access to look at this over and over and over again, how do you see this play?
Well, I've looked at it over and over again. Now, remember, it's where the ball crosses the sideline. You're also going to see a knee hit, the right knee hit there. Where is the ball at that point? Now, you look at that mat. That little nylon strip is just a marker for the players, so they get an indication of where the first down line is. But the question is, where is the ball when it crosses the sidelines? These are so hard to judge.
Here we go, Mike. We got it.
In my thought.
The farthest point of the ball was just short of the line to gain. Therefore, it's 4th down from the 17 and about a quarter. 4th down. There are no timeouts charged.
Now, Mike, why would they not place the ball and then we remeasure it?
That's a good point. And why would you get involved in a quarter of a yard? I mean, it's a real tough one. Normally, you would see them move the ball and remeasure, but he must have felt that yard line extension there on the sideline that he had a clear enough look.
All right, Mike, thank you. It's 4th down and inches, and the Vikings are going for it in this tie game. And Peterson leaps over the pile, and that'll be a first down to the 13-yard line. You surprised they went?
No, because obviously a team that lives by the run, plays good defense, only so much they're going to get down the field. If I've got Adrian Peterson and I need a 4th and inches, I'm going to be comfortable with it. I don't know if I'm going to get down here again. And now that I'm clearly in field goal position, they were going to come away with the field goal ostensibly. Yeah, I think it's a good pick.
Briggs had him trapped in the backfield, and Peterson trying to go the other way, lost his footing. So you go from having a football at the 15, and Peterson trying to reverse field loses 13.
Yeah, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. He's trying to bounce outside. How many times have you seen him make this kind of play? Briggs doing a great job disrupting the timing of the play. Now it looks like a team picture of the Bears defense. Everybody showed up to get Peterson down on the ground.
2nd down and 23. They give it to Peterson. He is shoved down at the 23-yard line by Paya. So now 3rd and a ton. And where the football is right now, the 23, roughly a 30, a 41-yard field goal try for Walsh. We know who has more than enough leg for that.
Well, we talked about ways to test your quarterback right here. Maintain field goal position. Let him look down the field. If he's got to drop it off, that's fine. But you really have to trust your quarterback, knowing you've got a field goal in your back pocket, to not make a mental error here.
Rudolph down to the 9-yard line, and out comes the field goal unit. Well, that huge loss of 13 on the first down run by Peterson, which, by the way, brought him back under 100 yards rushing on the day. So now Jay Cutler and company. Moments away from getting the football back. 28-yard field goal try for Blair Walsh. Good snap, good hold, good kick. Minnesota trying to go on the road in week 2 and stun the Bears. They got the turnover on the interception by Smith. Eventually got a first down, but had to settle for a field goal. Now a 3-point lead. Adrian Peterson hurting. Appears to be his left hand, maybe a finger, a thumb. But his team has just taken a 3-point lead. With 8:05 to go from Soldier Field in Chicago, 27-24. Minnesota in front. Blair Walsh spins it away. And Hester going to bring it out. 9 yards from his own end zone. And here comes Hester. And another big return. Up to the 35-yard line. Can Jay Cutler and the Bears rally for a come-from-behind win for a second straight week? Fourth quarter began last week when the Cincinnati Bengals were in town. The Bears were able to rally. Jay Cutler for the 18th time in his career, bringing his team back from a fourth quarter deficit to win a game. Going back to 2007, only Matt Ryan and Peyton Manning have more such wins in the regular season. Can Cutler do it again here today? Great field position after the big return by Hester. And Forte, the gain of 6.
Tom, we got to look at the sequence of events. You're going to see the Sanu fumble here, the recovery by Tim Jennings that put the Bear offense on 11-play, 81-yard drive here on a key 4th down, converting. Then the defense comes on the field with a key sack on 1st down for a 3-and-out. And then the Bears, with 6 minutes and 38 seconds left on the clock, a ball-controlling drive with 3 key 3rd down conversions to get the win.
Capped off on a touchdown reception by Brandon Marshall. They give it to Forte, and he has enough for a 1st down, and we quickly go to Kurt Menefee in Los Angeles.
Speaking of quickly, Harold, the Philadelphia Eagles score quickly. Michael Vick, 2-yard run. They lead the Chargers 27-23. They've only run 49 plays, though, in the 4th quarter. Tom and Brian, remember they ran 53 in the first half last week.
So Philadelphia trying to go to 2-0 on the year. That's a tight one, and we have a tight one here in Chicago. Forte cuts it back to the inside. And it looked like Guyon stole that football away from him. LaTroy Guyon has the ball in his hands, and Minnesota has the ball. It appeared he just ripped the ball right out of the arms of Forte at the 47-yard line. We're going to take a look at this.
The runner was going to the round. After pulling the ball away, the defender was then down by contact. 1st down.
And he does indeed take it away from Matt Forte.
Tom, we said we've seen it all. You can see him coming in behind and stripping the ball away as he's going down. Kind of like a fall-away jumper. I'll just take this going down to the ground. This is huge play for the Minnesota Vikings. The momentum going their way.
LaTroy Guyon had the big penalty called against him last week against Detroit, roughing the passer that kept the Lions drive alive, which led to points in that Week 1 loss. But now Guyon strips the ball, rips the ball away from Matt Forte. And the Vikings have the football with a 3-point lead. Ponder to a sliding receiver. That's Simpson. 1st down to the 35.
Tom, I'm constantly asked, why isn't there good, better tackling in the NFL? Well, this is a game of turnovers now. We talked about how the Bears, it's in their DNA. You could see here, he's thinking turnover all the time. They coach it every day. Get your hand on the ball, start stripping it, team tackle, populate the hole. Somebody bring him down, but somebody ought to be pulling on a ball at every opportunity. Chicago's the master of it, but right now, Minnesota's the king.
1st down and 10. Peterson lost his footing and got back to the line of scrimmage. 24 carries, 99 yards for Adrian Peterson. It's one thing to get a turnover, but of course Chicago thinking, hey, we need a big stop from our defense and keep it a 3-point game.
And the play calling by Bill Musgrave, it sounds like, well, why aren't you going for a touchdown every time? Well, you are, but he's getting very close to field goal range. If they can convert on a field goal now, make it a 6-point differential. Now a field goal doesn't tie you. It takes a touchdown to beat you. You've got to balance your play calling between the 2 objectives.
Peterson clearly in pain on that sideline. They've got Ponder rolling left. That's John Carlson, his first catch of the year. And he's down to the 26-yard line, which will bring up 3rd down and a long yard, maybe 2. And Peterson comes back on the field.
Well, he showed a little bit of pain on the sideline before this series. Right here, his hand gets caught down there. Now he's just covering up, and you can see him cradling it. I don't know if it's that the same hand or wrist he was favoring on the sideline, but it's not right now.
Well, they spotted that ball back to the 28. So it's 3rd down and 3. Blitz coming. Ponder down the middle to Jennings. And the catch is made at the 7-yard line. What a pass by Ponder. And it's 1st and goal, Vikings.
That's a big lead pass and a big lead catch, right? He just breaks across the field. He's having to drop this ball into the bucket with a trail defender right on his tail. Fry was right in behind him, and Wright was right on top. That thing had to be exact, like it was on a laser-guided missile, dropping it into the bucket for the big play down the field.
First and goal of the 7-yard line. Back in the hands of Peterson. It was that left hand we saw Peterson favoring on the sideline. Again, the one he had to stick out to try and keep the run alive before just cradling down to the ground and wincing in pain. And now Ponder, who was shaken up on the pass to Jennings a moment ago, will come over to the sideline. The Vikings going to spend their first timeout. Well, the Bears, I beg your pardon, are spending the timeout. As always, we have to take time to welcome the men and women in uniform serving around the world. Watching our broadcast today in 175 countries in broad ships at sea on AFN, the American Forces Network. We can't thank all of you enough who have served, are serving, and will serve the greatest country in the world. As of course we remembered earlier this week, 9/11. We will never forget. God bless you all. 2nd down and goal. Play fake, looking for Rudolph in the end zone. And step for step with him was Anderson. 3rd down and goal. Ponder the last 3 drives. 13 plays, 81 yards. Should have had a touchdown on a throw to Wright, but Wright couldn't catch it. It was a field goal. 13 plays, 79 yards. A Walsh field goal. Has hit on 10 of his last 15 for 146 yards these last 3 drives. And on 3rd down and goal from the 4, they run it. And this will force a field goal try to make it a 6-point lead.
And that has as much to do with just what we saw, a timeout called because the clock is becoming a factor. And to now run the ball, someone's going to say, well, why didn't you throw it in the end zone? Well, if it's incomplete, it's going to stop the clock anyway. Now you're looking there and you're forcing Chicago to use the timeout. The clock is a factor to go along with the score, and now if this is a good field goal, you're forcing Chicago with one less timeout to go the length of the field for a touchdown, not a field goal. Last Wednesday, America's tuned into The Ultimate Fighter in record numbers as the Ronda Rousey-Miesha Tate rivalry proceeded a shocking finish. And if you thought last week was as intense as it gets, wait until you see the explosive turn Rousey-Tate battle takes this week. Don't miss on the all-new The Ultimate Fighter Wednesday on Fox Sports 1. Find Fox Sports 1 on your provider. Go to foxsports1.com.
22-yard field goal try is good by Walsh. So with 3:15 to go, a touchdown still gives Chicago the lead. Minnesota coming up big in the 4th.
Well, it is getting interesting now. I'll tell you what, we are back. We are back at it. This is, from a coaching standpoint, this is where you're going to learn about. We've learned about Christian Ponder. He's come back from a lot of adversity early. We're going to find out about Jay Cutler here with an opportunity with 3:15 to go, down by 6. You get in the backyard, you practice, and you envision being an NFL quarterback. These are the situations you do it in. Down by 6, got to drive your team the length of the field for a score.
Well, they just going to keep it away from Hester, who set a Bears franchise record. And this one will be brought out to the 33-yard line. Some of the miscues here today. Fumble return, 61 yards by Robinson, a touchdown. on a Cutler fumble through the interception at the 1-yard line by a defensive tackle, Kevin Williams. Of course, Ponder threw an interception that Tim Jennings returned for a touchdown in the first half. This may turn out to be the play of the game, though. The strip by Guyon on the last Bears possession. But Cutler and the Bears get another chance. 3:08 to go. They have one timeout. They need a touchdown to take the lead. And that ball tipped to the line of scrimmage. They have hit the official. They hit the umpire here, Rich Hall.
On a low flat ball. See Williams getting up, almost getting his hand on it, and just right off the shoulder in the ear. That hurts.
But he's all right.
This is going to test that rookie right side of the Bears offensive line in what is clearly passing situations. We're going to see how they hold up.
Dump it off to Forte and Sanford coming up to make the tackle. Let's send it quickly to Los Angeles. Here's Kurt Menefee.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you've got Eddie Royal on your fantasy team, you are happy. 2 touchdown receptions last week. This is his 3rd today. He's got 5 in 2 games, matches his career high already. More importantly, it puts the Chargers up by 3, less than 3 left in Philly. Tom and Brian.
All right, Kurt, thank you. 2:33 to go. A critical 3rd down. One for their last 5 on 3rd down are the Bears. Caught. A leaping grab by Marshall to the Minnesota 48-yard line. And Cutler trying to get him to the line of scrimmage and get off another play before the 2-minute warning.
This is nice job by Cutler trying to get it off. He's going to have to pick it up. You want to get this play in with only one timeout left in your pocket.
Well, I tell you, it's the second time today, Brian, we have seen the Bears have a hard time with the clock running. But it's a 1st down, and they're on the move when we return. 2 minutes to play from Soldier Field in Chicago. Minnesota 30, the Bears 24. 1st down and 10 for Chicago at the Minnesota 49-yard line. And they lay it off to Forte. And you can't play it better defensively than Robinson. He had help from Xavier Rhodes. And really the Bears really taking a lot of time here.
Yeah, this is taking a long time to get the 2-minute offense run. They do have the one timeout left, but they're going to want to hold on to that at some point for a 3rd down call.
Starting to rain very hard again as Cutler throws, and is it a catch? Yes, it is by Jeffrey. Down to the 39-yard line, about a foot shy of the 1st down. And we're down to 1:15.
And it is raining hard now.
And a timeout is called. Are they going to review that catch?
They are reviewing the ruling on the field that the pass was complete.
Now, the good news about this is, since it's an automatic review, it gives the Chicago Bears a chance to kind of regroup, almost like a timeout. But if it is a catch, boy, it looked like it possibly is. We'll find out when we come back.
It's under a booth review, and this one looked like it was caught by Jeffrey.
It does. Look at his left hand. Firmly underneath it. Doesn't matter whether it moves or not because his hand's underneath it. I don't know, even if it did move, which I don't think it did, that there's any question that he had possession. I don't think it ever really touched the ground. So for my money, that's a catch. And as I said, this now ends up being an extra timeout for Chicago to orchestrate what they might have had to call and use their last timeout to make a 3rd down call. Remember, the call on the field was a catch, so it has to be irrefutable evidence, visual evidence, and I don't think we saw anything that would turn that over.
Well, we're waiting for Mr. Hockley, who, of course, is an attorney. So he is playing the role of judge and jury here with our verdict.
And executioner, depending upon what he says with the call. By the way, happy birthday, young man.
Thank you. A few days ago.
How about the big 5-0?
Amen. Thank God.
You don't look a day over 49.
Thank you.
The ruling on the field is confirmed. It was a completed catch. 1st down.
They are still short of a first down, so they're going to start this clock when they put the ball in play. So the Bears have to be ready.
And they're lined up ready to go, so they are ready to take advantage of the stoppage of play and not having to use their last timeout to do it.
30-21, 30-21.
And so now they start the clock. Third down and a yard. Cutler steps up and delivers to Brandon Marshall. And he is tackled by Smith at the 30-yard line. Bears have one timeout remaining. We're under a minute. Cutler looking for Jeffrey. And what a play made by the rookie Xavier Rhodes. As he got a hand on that one, he was beaten by Jeffrey in the corner, and a flag down to the far side of the field.
Offense number 74, 10-yard penalty, repeat first down.
Well, you talk about a game of inches. How about a game of fingernails? Because that's about all he got on it. Just to tip it at the last second away from Jeffrey. And the holding penalty now changes the whole dynamic of where we're at now. It's first down and a ton. With 43 seconds, they still have the timeout in their back pocket.
58, Rocky.
Cutler from the 39. Steps up, good protection. Bennett left alone. Inside the 20. And that is a first down to the 16-yard line. Clock running, 30.
He's going to kill it. He's going to dirt it right away to save that timeout. Get everybody set.
And he stops the clock, 22 seconds. Well.
With 22 seconds left, a timeout in his back pocket. Obviously, it's 4-down territory. So your play calling revolves around 4 chances of not only scoring, but getting the first down. You'd like to hold the timeout in your back pocket, but use it if you have to.
Right after the spike. Remember, this is a second down.
Always find Marshall.
Cutler looking into the end zone. And once more, it was Rhodes in the coverage of Jeffrey. Third down. 16 seconds.
It may be very difficult to get a touchdown throw in the end zone. My guess is if they pull this off, it's likely going to be a throw underneath that gets the catch and run, because the Minnesota Vikings very good at playing that passive zone defense, filling those deep zones. Doesn't mean he can't get it done, but the odds are against him.
Bennett at the top of your screen. Jeffrey, bottom of your screen, and Marshall in the slot. Third down. Cutler for Martellus Bennett. And it is a touchdown!
Big lead throw, big lead catch. Here you're going to see Bennett slip to the outside. That's Chris Cook, a corner. That's not a mismatch with a safety or a linebacker. That's a corner with a great back shoulder throw.
Now that ties the game. This one to give Chicago a 1-point lead. Patrick Manley snaps it. Podlesh holds it. And Gold trying to give the Bears the lead. He does. Jay Cutler for a second straight week rallies Chicago in the fourth quarter.
The acquisitions in the offseason by Phil Emery, the general manager of the Chicago Bears. Martellus Bennett at tight end. Jermon Bushrod at tackle. The drafting of the young rookies on the right side of the offensive line. Mark Tressum coming in, putting all the pieces together. The validation the last 2 weeks, the come from behind win against Cincinnati, this now fourth quarter final drive, come from behind. We'll see if it's a win. There's 10 seconds left here, Tom, the way this game's going. Yep, I'm not calling it in the books yet. But boy, this validates everything you do with the new coaching staff coming in. And for the Minnesota Vikings, it's a kick in the gut.
Now let's remember, we have 10 seconds left in this game. And you could make the argument that Blair Walsh might have the single strongest leg of any field goal kicker in the NFL. You're talking about a young man who has not missed in his career from 50 yards and beyond. Not a single miss yet. 11 for 11, including a 58-yarder last season. So now the squib kick. Boy, I don't know if you like this move. Carlson comes up and he is trying to pitch a football. Does Chicago take it away? We are waiting to find out. The clock is continuing to run. The Bears have the ball. And now we're getting one official saying Chicago football. But Ed Hockley will hear that and tell us.
The ruling on the field is that the Chicago Bear player took the ball away. He was then down by contact. It's Chicago's ball, first down.
Well, they're going to obviously review this. Blake Costanzo, the Bear who came in, but they're going to look to see if Carlson's knee was down. Here comes Costanzo. Still no possession. It doesn't appear.
Yeah, it looks like he took it and Carlson landed on either a Viking or a Bear. I couldn't see. So he was not down yet. He's got to come in and they're going to look at it. It looks like he was not on the ground. A little bit of a moot point because obviously even if it were Minnesota's game, 3 seconds, not a lot you can do.
This play is under a booth review. Did Costanzo strip it away from Carlson? You know, Brian, I have to ask you a couple things. You know, I think that all of us understand the reason you kick a line drive kick. But if you're Minnesota, do you tell your players that, you know, not Cordero Patterson, obviously, but everybody else saying, look, let's kick to you. Let's get on the ground in a hurry and give us a chance for a play and a field goal.
You just talked about Blair Walsh and the range that he has. Give yourself time. Now, it's long odds, granted, but the idea that you're going to get the ball, take one shot to get in field goal position, you could make a case, give yourself up, save the time on the clock.
Chicago gets a touchdown pass in the final 10 seconds. Jay Cutler to Martellus Bennett. Bennett a touchdown on his first reception as a Chicago Bear in the win over the Bengals last week. 7 catches, 76 yards, 2 touchdowns today, and now a big call.
The Vikings player came loose from the ball. It was then taken away by Chicago. The ruling on the field stands as called. Bears ball.
So that should just about tie a ribbon around this one off to the strip by Costanzo on John Carlson.
You can see kind of lands on the Bear player not being down as the ball's coming out. There's a hard-earned victory here. You got to feel for the Vikings. They played hard.
They do.
Tom, like we said, I can't think of a single thing that didn't happen in this game. We've covered it all.
Kickoff return for a touchdown. Fumble recovery for a touchdown. Interception return by a touchdown. An interception by a defensive tackle in the end zone. An Adrian Peterson fumble. A last-second touchdown. This one had it all. The Bears go to 2-0. Minnesota 0-2. And right now, we join Dick Stockton, Rondé Barber, for the conclusion of the panel.